Events in One Piece are getting rather heated with the Cypher Pole Zero's appearance on Egghead. It can be remembered that the world government has commanded the secret task force to eliminate Drive, Vegapunk and his satellites, and CP0, headed by Rob Lucci, begins their assault in Chapter 1068. However, Drive, Vegapunk isn't just going to let them run amok. The satellites have already attempted to bar the government agents from entering the island, even making the mechanical sea beasts block their path. As a result, the CP0 has to force their way into the island. They've destroyed 2 of the mechanical sea beasts, though they've had to abandon their ship in the process. Afterward, they begin destroying everything in their path. While the villainous group of government lapdogs is doing that, the original Dr. Vegapunk is conversing with Luffy and the gang. He tells them about his dream of providing free energy to the entire world. He believes that by doing so, he can rid the world of war. In addition, he reveals that he is already aware of the government's desire to eliminate him since he is fully aware of the events that occurred during the Void Century. As such, he requests Luffy's help in getting off the island. Luffy obliges. The genius doctor then proceeds to pack his belongings, asking Luffy to meet him at Labaface. While Luffy is heading there, he meets his old adversary, CP0's Rob Lucci. With CP0 wreaking havoc on the island, its denizens are thrown into panic. Chopper and Jinbei also finally believe Vegapunk's claims after personally witnessing CP0's actions. Meanwhile, Luffy asks Lucci why the Leopard Man, or Pigeon Guy, as he prefers to call him, is on the island. Lucci nonchalantly tells him that Egghead is a government island, making Luffy realize that they are the ones who shouldn't be there in the first place. The other members of CP0 have also noticed Luffy's presence. However, instead of confronting the pirate, they make sure to warn Lucci not to instigate him. It turns out that CP0 can't touch an emperor without permission from the higher-ups. Since emperors have entire operations running beneath them, a single mistake on the world government's side can trigger a war between the 2 factions. While the government agents are discussing things among themselves, Luffy hands Bonnie to Jinbei. He then proceeds to check on the situation and learns of Atlas' state. Lucci warns Luffy not to interfere since it is supposed to be an internal matter, but Luffy just can't let the matter go, as Atlas fed him a bountiful amount of food. In the naval headquarters, Fleet Admiral Akainu also gets word of the Straw Hat's current location. He then realizes that Dr. Vegapunk may have had an idea of the CP0's intent, preemptively allying himself with the Straw Hats. He is well aware of what the Doctor's decision entails. With Dr. Vegapunk allying himself with a pirate crew, the world government loses one of its major sources of combat power. Akainu takes the Straw Hat's actions as a declaration of war and issues a command for Lucci to stay his ground and wait for the Navy to arrive. After all, Admiral Kizaru is already on his way to Egghead. Back on Egghead, Luffy and Lucci are already going at it. Luffy's comrades are trying to stop him from running amok, especially with his new status. However, their pleas fall on deaf ears. The other Straw Hats are monitoring the events with Dr. Vegapunk's satellites, and the first thing they notice is Rob Lucci's new form. Lucci has also achieved Devil Fruit Awakening. His leopard form is visibly thinner than his usual animal form, and black clouds snake around his nape and shoulders similar to the white clouds of Luffy's Gear 5. Like Luffy's companions, Lucci's companions are also trying to calm him down. Dr. Vegapunk finally arrives at the lab where his satellites are located. He relays to them that the warrior in white has appeared and asks the Straw Hats about the truth behind Luffy's transformation. When the Straw Hats tell him that it may be the gum fruit, Drive, Vegapunk tells them there are no records of said fruit. Dr. Vegapunk also notes that Luffy's appearance is reminiscent of that of a god. Ultimately, he relays to them the truth behind Luffy's devil fruit. In addition to that, Dr. Vegapunk reveals that the devil fruits are a manifestation of humanity's hope. They are possibilities of evolution that humans have desired, each one representing a branch of humanity's future. At that moment, Sentomaru arrives and asks Drive Vegapunk about his task. Since the Cypher Pole is on the government's side, he assumes that he will be aiding them. However, the inventor contradicts this expectation. He tells the Navy officer about CP0's attempt to eliminate him. Dr. Vegapunk then asks him to fight CP0. Sentomaru, of course, is hesitant to engage his colleagues, which essentially turns him into a traitor. That's when Dr. Vegapunk reminds him of how he has saved the young Navy officer. Sentomaru is still contemplating what he will do when Kaku orders S-Bear to fight Sentomaru's 3 seraphims. Hearing that, Sentomaru overrides Kaku's order and makes S-Bear attack them instead. Since Sentomaru has privileges over the seraphims, S-Bear follows his command instead. Stussy then reveals the seraphim's control hierarchy. The authority chip owners are at the bottom, followed by Sentomaru. Dr. Vegapunk and his satellites are above Sentomaru, while the 5 elders sit on top of the hierarchy. Sentomaru then issues more commands, aiding the Straw Hats in their escape. Luffy acknowledges Sentomaru's help, but LUCCI isn't going to let him get away with it. He attacks the young Navy officer in order to erase his control over the Seraphim. Clearly, One Piece's Rob LUCCI hasn't lost his villainous touch. Back at the lab, the Straw Hats continue their inquiries. Usopp asks the genius inventor why the world government is after him. After all, he remains the man with the greatest brain in the world. Dr. Vegapunk uses that same logic to answer Usopp's question, asking him what the best course of action would be if that same genius decides to jump ship. That is also why Vegapunk sees the Straw Hats' arrival as a blessing since they easily become his ride out of Egghead. Seeing what happened to Sentomaru, Luffy rushes to the Navy officer. He apologizes to Sentomaru for distracting him, though the latter quickly dismisses Luffy's claim. LUCCI also takes notice of Sentomaru's status. And so, the CP0 agent once again launches an attack. This time, however, Luffy isn't just going to watch. The pirate hits LUCCI with his Dawn Whip before the latter can reach Sentomaru. Jinbei and Chopper then take that opportunity to retrieve Atlas. They also make sure to inform Luffy about their priorities, as the satellite will likely not make it if no immediate repair is provided. Meanwhile, the Seraphims are also letting loose. They are engaging the Cypher Pole agents, earning Kaku and Stussy's acknowledgement. Frankie notices Seraphim Jinbei's use of Senor Pink's devil fruit powers. He goes on to explain how they are brothers born from different mothers and weeps about the possibility of his death. However, Vegapunk wipes away his worries. The scientist confirms Senor Pink's survival, though he is imprisoned in Impel Down. The genius inventor then reveals that he has managed to duplicate Senor Pink's devil fruit ability. He also clarifies that only Zone devil fruits can be recreated, though it is still uncertain whether the artificially made devil fruits also possess the power of awakening. Dr. Vegapunk further explains that Logia types are still too difficult to reproduce and that while Paramythia types can't be artificially made, their powers can be transmitted to others through the original user's bloodline elements. Dr. Vegapunk uses that discovery to create a new type of blood, which is what's powering the Seraphims. The scientist then boasts about how the Seraphims are the highest echelon of science and the strongest form of humanity. That's when the Straw Hats realized why the world government has disbanded the 7 Warlord system. At the same time, Luffy and LUCCI's fight is also coming to an end. Luffy begins unleashing his comical attacks, which eventually send the CP0 agents away. They then take that opportunity to run. With the help of Seraphim Hancock, the group goes into the vacuum rocket and launches themselves into the Labaface. Sentomaru takes this opportunity to officially leave Vegapunk in the Straw Hat Pirate's care. The moment Luffy and the gang arrive in Labaface, the entire place locks down. It has cancelled all trips to and from Fabrioface and has also tightened its security. Back in Fabrioface, the Cypher Pole Zero members are mocking the fallen Sentomaru. They are telling him to be proud since he is able to accomplish his duty of being Vegapunk's bodyguard. After that, they start to discuss their next plan of action. Their official order tells them to stay put and wait for the Navy, but by doing so, they are granting the Straw Hats time to escape the island. Back at the lab, the Straw Hats continue their inquiries. Usopp asks the genius inventor why the world government is after him. After all, he remains the man with the greatest brain in the world. Dr. Vegapunk uses that same logic to answer Usopp's question, asking him what the best course of action would be if that same genius decides to jump ship. That is also why Vegapunk sees the Straw Hats' arrival as a blessing since they easily become his ride out of Egghead. Hearing that, the Straw Hats have mixed responses.